Happy Thursday. We are talking today about PCOS. 5 things you can do to feel better now if you have PCOS. For those of you that, I think most of you who have it know it, but for those of you that don't know what PCOS is and think maybe you do have it, but you don't have all the symptoms, it changes clinically. There are these really classic PCOS types, which they have very long menstrual cycles and very delayed ovulation. And we're talking about 100-day menstrual cycles, 60-day menstrual cycles, and where ovulation is usually, you're not picking it up with the predictor kits, or you can't pick it up with the predictor kits. You're seeing kind of signs of ovulation a couple times throughout the month. And then you also have easy weight gain, you have facial hair, you have cystic acne, you have lots of hormonal challenges, if you will. That's the very classic PCOS type. And then that's called the thick PCOS type. Then there's the thin PCOS type, which tends to have a little bit of a shorter cycle. Maybe it's like a 40-day cycle, 34, something like that. And you're ovulating around cycle day 20. But the same kind of thing, you start seeing signs of symptoms of ovulation, maybe around day 10, 11, 12. But the predictor kits aren't really working for you. But then the cycle doesn't come until day 40 or something like that. So chances are, here's a quick rule of thumb. For the PCOS types, subtract 14 days from the length of your cycle. So say you had a 100-day cycle. If you subtract 14, 86. Cycle day 86 is when you ovulated. If you have a 40-day cycle, subtract 14, 26 is probably when you ovulated. So what I see clinically when girls are trying to get pregnant and they have PCOS is that they're not trying at the right time, because they start trying the first time they see those symptoms of ovulation. And that's actually the first attempt at ovulation. But with PCOS, what it is that there's a bunch of cysts on the ovaries that's preventing ovulation from happening. So some girls, the thick type, tend to have lots and lots of cysts, and the thin type tend to have less cysts. But that's not 100% for sure. I'm generalizing, absolutely. But so what you see, that first time you start to see some cervical mucus, feel some cramping, maybe the predictor kit picks up ovulation. That's actually an attempt at ovulation. And I'm going like this because if you're BBT charting, basal body temperature charting, you see your temperature rise as if it's about to ovulate. But then what happens is it comes back down. And that's what's going on, is there's an attempt at ovulation, but it doesn't succeed because of those cysts. It's kind of weighing down the ovaries. So there's an attempt, and then it gets the energy back up again, and it attempts again. And then sometimes for girls, the thin type or the ones with the shorter cycles, maybe the third attempt, it'll actually happen, the ovulation. For the thicker types with those 100-day cycles, it takes a long time to happen. Like I said, around cycle day 80 or so. I'm, again, using very basic numbers just to give you an indication. But 99% of the time when you get a period, 14 days prior to that period, you ovulated. So that's a good way to start keeping track of when you ovulated, because with PCOS, there's a lot of these ovulation attempts, and you might be kind of fooled into thinking that you ovulated, but you haven't yet. So when you're trying to conceive, you want to keep trying all the way through. Look at previous cycles and subtract 14 and get an idea of when you actually are ovulating. I'm going to switch hands again. I forgot my little thing downstairs, my little tripod. It's just one of those mornings. It's now afternoon, isn't it? So that's kind of the general thing of what PCOS is. So there's the thick type that has the really classic PCOS symptoms. Then there's the thin type that doesn't have any symptoms. They don't have facial hair. They don't have easy weight gain. In fact, they tend to be on the real thin side, like thin and wiry, as we say in Chinese medicine. But again, they have these longer cycles and kind of this signs and symptoms of the body trying to ovulate, and then it doesn't. So you could go to your doctor and you can get tested to see if you have insulin dependent or non-insulin dependent type of PCOS. And that's indicative, or that tells us a lot too. As well, you can get your LH, luteinizing hormone, to FSH, follicle stimulating hormone ratio. And if that's a 1-to-1 ratio, then you have PCOS. And then have your doctors request an ultrasound of your ovaries and have your doctors look at your ovaries. And if they see cysts, then that's another sign. But the bottom line is the typical recommendations from a Western perspective are either taking something called metformin or using Clomid to induce ovulation that will then hopefully shorten your period and or render you pregnant if that's what you're trying to do. The thing with, I think, both of those, metformin has some wonky side effects, lots of digestive upset, and girls just don't feel well on it. So you can regulate your blood sugar in many other ways besides using metformin. And then the thing with rushing to Clomid, it does work. It's an ovulation inducer, and it's a pill you take. It's fairly simple, fairly benign, maybe the first time you take it. As you start to take it more and more times in a row, I never recommend more than 3 times in a row, you will get lots of like PMS-like symptoms because Clomid causes estrogen to kind of pool in your body. So you get very estrogenic. And that can also cause things like more cysts and fibroids. So you really want to be conscious of how many times you take it. But also you want to be conscious of when you take it. If you've just discovered you have PCOS and you have lots of hormonal symptoms or things just are off in your body, I do not recommend jumping into Clomid because chances are, if there is PCOS, the quality of the eggs in your ovaries are compromised. And not that you can't improve that quality, because you really can, and that's what my entire approach with my Yes You Can Get Pregnant book, my Yes You Can Get Pregnant e-course, the entire approach is about regulating hormones and optimizing egg quality. But when there's lots of little follicles growing on the ovaries, which is what PCOS is, you know, the way I look at it is the nutrition then in your body and all of the, you know, nourishment to help feed those developing follicles and give them the best quality is compromised because the body now has to divide that in a regularly menstruating non-PCOS woman. There's maybe 2 or 3 follicles that are growing. In a PCOS woman, there can be 10, you know. And so you then are taking that nutrition that was divided between 3 follicles and dividing it between 10. So everything gets a little less. And, you know, so what I say is, you know, I just had a girl who recently took Clomid while working with me. And, you know, I supported her on it because we're 3 months into our process. So she's really made some of the dietary and lifestyle changes that I recommend to really help regulate her blood sugar levels and her PCOS. Her symptoms are improving. We saw some healthy ovulations. She was feeling impatient and she wanted, you know, to jumpstart things, and I respect that. I admire her decision. I support her. You know, I understand compassionately with where she's at emotionally and how ready she is to get pregnant. And, you know, but had she decided to take the Clomid when we first started working together, I would have urged her not to, because I wanted a couple months under our belt to really optimize the quality of the eggs that are in her ovaries, right? So, you know, you can get pregnant right away on the Clomid, but I worry about the health of that egg and then the health of that child and the health of that pregnancy, because I really want you going into pregnancy, bottom line, with balanced hormones and balanced blood sugar, because that then renders a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby, which is my bottom line. My bottom line is not getting you pregnant. My bottom line is healthy mama, healthy baby, healthy home, right? So things you can do right now to help manage your PCOS. Take something called Ovasitol every single day. Beth, if you can add a link, Ovasitol is really, really important for regulating blood sugar, especially in PCOS types. And it has been shown in small clinical studies to have the same exact effect as metformin, yet it does not have any of the nasty side effects. And all it is myo-inositol, which is a powerful antioxidant, but has powerful effects on regulating blood sugar and regulating hormones so that you can regulate the PCOS. So Beth's going to post a link to where you can get the Ovasitol. I urge all of you with PCOS to take it. If you're not sure you have PCOS, please talk to your doctor, get an ultrasound, get some hormone blood work done. You know, taking inositol without PCOS is definitely not going to do any harm, but I'm not an over supplementer. So if you don't need it, you don't need it, right? Another thing that's really, really, really in the PCOS types is blood sugar regulation, which I've said 100 times already. But so that means eating upon waking. Do not go longer than 20 minutes without some sort of protein in your mouth. And I don't mean that you have to sit down and eat a full breakfast, but I do mean that there needs to be like 4 almonds in your mouth. Or I always do a handful of sprouted sesame seeds, a scoop of nut butter, some hummus if you can't do nuts, collagen peptides. I put some in my coffee, so there's protein there. But you want protein first thing in the morning, ideally within 20 minutes of waking up, because that sets the stage for your blood sugar the rest of the day. And then really, really, really important with PCOS types is you need to eat every 2 to 3 hours throughout the day. You cannot, I repeat, cannot go longer than 2 to 3 hours without food in your mouth, and the food has to be protein. Because again, blood sugar stabilization is key to your healing. Every meal needs to have protein, fat, vegetables. You do, as a PCOS type, need some carbohydrates, but I would recommend watching grains and rather getting carbohydrates from tuber, starchy vegetables. Sweet potatoes are the best. And lots of fat. Your body needs lots of fat. So I would do, ghee, ideally. The other thing too, when you're thinking about regulating blood sugar, is you want to avoid all added sugar in your diet. So read labels, avoid added sugar. I know I generally speak in my book about staying under 10 to 15 grams of added sugar a day. With PCOS girls, ideally 100% no added sugar. Maybe here and there, like kombucha has like 5 grams. It's technically not really added sugar, but it's a byproduct of fermentation. But so really, really be conscious. And when you do have something with sugar, you have to consume it with a fat, because otherwise your blood sugar is going to spike and you're going to set yourself into a holding pattern. Another really important thing is alcohol. Alcohol intake and PCOS do not go well together. If you are a drinker or enjoy a cocktail here and there, absolutely no wine, no champagne, no rosé, none of that stuff, because the residual sugar in those types of products, in the wine types, really seem to spike PCOS. So if you're gonna drink something, it needs to be something like vodka or tequila, and either on the rocks with fresh lime juice or lemon juice, or with some seltzer water, but no added sugar whatsoever. And really keep it to like 1, max 2 cocktails, ideally like 3, max 5 cocktails a week. But less than that, if you're really being serious and you want to get your PCOS under control, stat, and get pregnant, I would cut out alcohol 100%. I would cut out sugar 100%. I would focus solely on eating protein, fat, vegetables, and at least 1 carbohydrate a day in the form of like a sweet potato. Other things like rutabaga, squashes, things like that are also really good sources of carbohydrates. But look for non-grain starches. Quinoa is another option. And, one thing too that I love, and we can post the video on how to do it, is doing a daily or a regular castor oil pack up until you ovulate. So once you've ovulated and if you're trying to conceive, if you could potentially be pregnant, do not do castor oil packs. But up until ovulation, to kind of stimulate and bring on ovulation, doing a daily castor oil pack will really help. Castor oil helps break up masses and accumulations in the body. So doing a castor oil pack over the ovaries and the uterus will really help break up any cysts that are on the ovaries. So we will post a video that I have on YouTube on how to do a castor oil pack, and I really urge you to do that and follow all the instructions. Namely, if you're trying to get pregnant, do not do a castor oil pack after you could potentially be pregnant, or if you are pregnant. And then lastly, really know in your heart of hearts that you have power over this. You can change your health and improve your hormones and your fertility. Sometimes it just requires, not sometimes, a lot of times it requires patience, and it can take 3 to 6 cycles to really balance your hormones. So with PCOS, it can be a stubborn, diagnosis. However, I always say if there's a fertility diagnosis you have, PCOS is one of the easiest ones to treat. But you really do have to stay committed to, especially like to all the things I talked about: eating upon waking, going 2 to 3 hours, no longer without food, lots of protein, lots of fat, lots of veggies, one carbohydrate type of thing a day, like a sweet potato, cutting out your sugar, and doing the castor oil packs, but really staying committed and trusting your body, trusting in the process, not being over identified by your diagnosis. So I don't want you talking so much about it from a place of like fear. You can say, I have PCOS and I'm managing it. I have PCOS and I'm learning how to balance my hormones. I have PCOS and I'm regulating my blood sugar every day with the lifestyle choices I make, because I know once I regulate my blood sugar, my PCOS is going to figure itself out. And women with PCOS get pregnant all the time, and women with PCOS have healthy menstrual cycles all the time. And I have so much power over this, and I can do this. So that's the space I want you to be in when you're talking about your PCOS, not, in a space of like, ho hum, feel sorry for me, I have PCOS, I'm screwed. And I say that from a loving, kind place, but, I spoke at an event yesterday and I was talking about autoimmune conditions, which PCOS is an autoimmune condition. And I said, 15 years of clinical practice, I see lots and lots and lots of positive changes in my patients when we do acupuncture and we do diet and we do supplements and we do lifestyle and all of these things. But the biggest change I see in my clients is when they shift their body beliefs, when they shift their beliefs about their body from a place of worry and fear to a place of support and encouragement. When you start believing in your body and in your power to shift your health, that's when we see radical changes. And really that's because your beliefs dictate your behavior dictates your health. And every single of the 37 trillion cells in your body hear what your brain is saying. So if you're saying to your body, in your brain, I have PCOS and I'm never going to have regular hormones, I'm never going to get pregnant, all of these things, your cells are going to respond and they're going to, basically show you what you're saying. They're going to, become that self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you turn around and say to yourself and to all the cells in your body, I can take back the power over this. I have control here. I can make these decisions and these lifestyle choices, and I feel good. I feel better. And you celebrate the changes, even if they're small changes. If you went from a 44-day cycle to a 38-day cycle, you celebrate the hell out of that. If you went from 100 to a 60-day cycle, you celebrate the hell out of that. We're not looking for 28-day cycles for PCOS girls. I'm just looking for ovulation to become a little more efficient. But mostly what I'm looking for is balanced blood sugar across the board, and for those really raging hormonal symptoms to go away. I don't care if I have a PCOS girl and she still has a 40-day cycle, but I care more about her symptoms, and I want to see them shift and improve. And when I see those improve, I know that fertility is going to thrive and hormones are getting balanced. Hi, everyone. Hi, Susan Testerman. How are you? Yeah, so it's, it's not so much, because I see that too with my PCOS types, that they get really focused on, they want that 28-day cycle. You might never have a 28-day cycle. So I want you to embrace that, and that's okay. But you can have a healthier cycle, and you can have a more fertile cycle or a more balanced hormonally cycle. So keep that in mind. And even if you wind up having a 20-day cycle, a 20-day ovulation and a 34-day cycle, that's awesome. That's fine. That works. And it might get shorter, but it's healthier is what we want, right? More balance is what we want, not to be so fixated on to be like everyone else. And of course, acupuncture is amazing for regulating PCOS. Like one of the best things. I do lots of electrical stimulation on my patients to get them to induce ovulation. So if you have access to acupuncture, get it. It will really help. And yeah, if you live nearby, reach out. And if you guys want more information on how I can help you balance your hormones and your PCOS, check out my book, Yes, You Can Get Pregnant. I also do online coaching. So if you want my one-on-one advice from you, go to my website, amyraup.com, and click on Work with Amy, and you can see all the options you have there. I also have an awesome e-course that will really help you balance your hormones. The Yes, You Can Get Pregnant e-course. That's also on my website. So check it all out, and I will see you guys next Thursday. Sending you lots of love. Ciao. Oh, hi, my Allie love. I love you. Yeah, these are my new glasses.